they've got over 20 years experience in the development of XML and prior to SGML content converter tools. And we provide associated services as well. There are two technologies which form the basis of our company right now. One of them may be known to you, which is Mark, which is a developer tool which was first developed in the 1980s for SGML content processing, and more latterly is used for SGML and XML content processing solutions and development. Used by large organizations and small around the world, so people in the tech doc space such as Airbus and Boeing, and commercial publishers including the likes of Wolters Kluwer and Thomson are OmniMark users. It was really based upon this sort of experience that we had in developing the tools to help developers actually themselves develop content processing applications and conversion solutions that gave us the foundation for developing Migrate, the cloud conversion service, which we first started to undertake some 3 or 4 years ago, and which is now being used by organizations large and small, in some cases to convert tens of thousands of documents, in other cases to convert a few hundred documents. So I hope today you'll be able to see that Migrate actually does suit sort of all sorts of different types of sizes of organizations and different types of requirements as far as conversion is concerned. So let's just sort of press on. We're talking about legacy content conversion in general, first of all, and so that until now I say there's two directions that, or two approaches that companies can adopt when looking at legacy conversion. One is to take an in-house approach, maybe with your own team of developers, with your own tools, and one is to outsource. It's not that one is right or one is wrong, they're just different approaches, and the approach that you might adopt really depends upon your own particular circumstances. Looking at some of those circumstances and particular considerations, we'll just spend a minute or two. First of all, one issue might be, what are you actually going to convert? What do you want to convert? What do you want to leave behind? Are you really in a position yet to understand your content well enough to batch content and outsource it? If you're not, maybe you should wait and take it a little bit easy, maybe take an in-house approach to it. But it's an important decision to understand what content should actually move across in the first place, or whether content should even be converted or perhaps even rewritten, So important decisions to make. What are the source formats you're dealing with? In cases such as, I would say, PDFs, they're traditionally sort of quite difficult to make the conversion for. There's a lot of visual interpretation required. There's a lot of manual intervention required, and it may be that in those circumstances outsourcing is a better option. In cases where we're talking, say, FrameMaker to DITA, as we will be doing today, then that lends itself really quite well to automated solutions. There's the consistency of source files. Often you don't really know the quality or consistency of your content until you begin a conversion, until you really get into it. But you can take some pretty sort of well-educated guesses as to how consistent content is by sampling your content in the first place. But there are certain situations, let's say in commercial publishing, where maybe you've got hundreds of documents authored by individual authors, created by individual authors, with no commonality of standards or styles, and that really doesn't lend itself well to automated solutions. That might be a good candidate for outsourcing, where you're going to have to be probably using quite a lot of sort of labor-intensive methods. But in the tech docs arena, you traditionally have authors working in groups with common standards applied, and that lends itself better to automated solutions. How good tools you're using. Consideration, there are a lot of there are a lot of scripting languages out there. There are a lot of desktop tools. They all vary in their quality and effectiveness. If a conversion is 80% effective or 95% effective, say, it makes a big difference to the manual cleanup that might be involved pre-conversion or post-conversion. And if there's a lot of manual cleanup involved, that again might be a good candidate for outsourcing. And then what skills do you have in-house? Do you have the skills you'd require to actually use the tools that you've identified, and are people experienced in conversion projects? It's easy to underestimate the amount of work that's involved in conversion. I think, you know, clearly the more experience you have, the better prepared you might be to face some of the issues you'd face. And then there's the availability of subject matter experts during the conversion process. Some cases with some source information, perhaps it's not important to have SMEs involved. In others, I think it is. Certainly in the case of FrameMaker to DITA, subject matter experts need to be making decisions and taking decisions in pretty much all aspects of the conversion process, from initial specification of conversion rules to QAing results, helping tweak those results, re-specify, that sort of thing. So it's important that your SMEs are available, and if they're not generally available, it might be quite difficult to outsource that in a sort of a batched environment, and it may be better to pace that in-house. But again, it just depends upon your specific deadlines and your specific production schedules. And talking about deadlines, if you've got pressing deadlines and you need to scale solutions, and you need to have the resources at scale. We talk to a lot of customers, perhaps who've house conversions, using their tools and doing their own thing really, but find that it's really not a scalable solution. Are really quite happy doing their own thing, where they just press ahead and just basically sort of work through content conversion at their own pace, and that's fine too. Scalability can be a big issue, and then that's when you might more seriously be considering outsourcing solutions. Finally, as another consideration, and certainly not least, is the issue of budgets. And if you're experienced in conversion, it may well be that you're not aware or familiar with the sorts of budgets that you might require to assist with your conversion efforts. And we quite often find that sort of CMS budgets have been depleted. That often legacy conversion, not so much maybe that it's an afterthought, but it can become afterthought and not be funded correctly. And if you haven't got your budget in place, then you stand very little chance of being able to outsource your conversion. The ROI case for legacy content conversion really should be, well, I would suggest quite straightforward. Especially take docs arena with FrameMaker documents, as we were looking at today, you'll be in the order, they cost in the order of $100 per page to produce typically, and a few dollars to convert, and so the ROI case should be really quite an easy one to make, but often it's forgotten about. Again, it's just preparing in advance to make sure the options are available to you to outsource should you require and need to do that. So typically these are the directions that people, or decisions I guess, or considerations that people have had to make in the past, or you're going an in-house or an outsourcing route. With Migrate, actually, and the cloud we'll be talking about, we provide you with a different option. It's not an outsourced option. It's not an in-house option. It's a sort of a mix of both, really. And I like to think that it brings the best of both approaches together, and that's what we'll be trying to draw out in the course of today's demonstration. Before doing that, I wondered if we might be able to just sort of take a little bit of background information from yourselves and begin a poll. We'll share the results with you, just to understand where you're coming from, where you're at with your data investigations and your conversion efforts. So if you wouldn't mind spending 1 minute and no longer than that, filling in the poll questionnaire, we'd appreciate it, and we'll show you those results immediately afterwards. So we've got 1 minute, and we'll start that now. the first seconds were a lot longer than the last ones. Let me see. The results are up there. Is that Avi? Is that the final result showing there?
Yes, it is. I think it automatically cut off people after the minute.
That's great. So we're actually polling on 72 people, as you can see, 72 attendees, which is great. And so 24 to 72 are already implementing DITA, 17 saying no, and 15 currently implementing. So it's good that you're already there, and I hope that today's presentation, I mean, we're assuming actually that you do understand that there's a reasonable understanding of DITA, and that we make the demonstration relevant to you. Seeing recently, we've been involved in the DITA world, I guess, for since the beginning. Years ago, it's great to see so much more new interest coming in into the sector. We've certainly seen I think sort of a lot of momentum growing in the last couple of years, which is very encouraging. So just looking at the next question, have you previously converted legacy content? Well, quite a lot saying no, and I can't really see the answers to whether you did that in-house or outsourcing, but majority of people seem to be doing it in-house, and that's a common thread with us. We often see people who've had some previous experience who now want to scale and undertake legacy content conversion. The next question about source formats. This is quite typical. I think what we're seeing here, Maker has been the dominant format that people want to convert across, and then followed by Word, and then you'll see generally a little bit of RoboHelp then, some PDF, and then XML as well, which is coming into the fray a little bit more. We're seeing some organizations wanting to move from their own custom XML to DITA, and we can help in that too. I mean, we can help with these formats. Today, as you've already been informed, we'll be showing FrameMaker to DITA, but we can equally show other formats being converted at some other time if you're interested. What are the issues that you're actually sort of looking at? Interestingly, just to try to pick the top 2 or 3 there, the consistency and quality of content seems to be an issue to you. Estimating the time involved, yeah, that's interesting too, and we'll hopefully show you a few metrics on that. And the skills and experience of team members, I think, is always an issue. But what to convert as well is an issue. So, yeah, there are several concerns, and it's interesting to see that they're spread across different areas. And then, interestingly, okay, the people are not answering, I guess, with the volume of pages to convert, but the majority of people want to convert between 0 and 1,000 pages. That's interesting in itself. There are others who want to convert a little more than that. But and we'll show you today that the solution is relevant. If you have got a couple of hundred pages you want to convert, it's just as relevant as it is if you want to convert tens of thousands of pages as well. But it's interesting that some people have a budget for next year, so I would dare say that the majority of people on today's call are not going to be converting content outsourcing companies next year. There's no budget in place. It would surprise me. Things change, but that's probably the likely outcome. So thanks for sharing that information with us. And what I'd like to do now is actually just very quickly give you a quick overview of Migrate before handing across to Helen. So it's a cloud service. We're talking about uploading, analyzing, converting, and downloading documents. And the first page, what we do is actually we provide you with a dedicated portal. For those who are using Migrate, you have a dedicated portal. We pre-configure it with conversion rules specific to your sample documents that have already been provided to us. We can set up conversion pipelines for different document groups. We actually set up the portal and configure it quite quickly and rapidly to target 1.1, 1.2, or to incorporate specializations as you need to. when uploading documents, you're doing this as the end user. You can upload single files or multiple files. You can zip things together and load them up there. And for FrameMaker documents, we're actually uploading MIF files typically. So to the portal, and they converted actually to our own XML sort of hub format, and we're updating the of these documents. So we're looking at characteristics which include text and tables, images, equations, styles, variables, conditional text, really anything where we can find discernible patterns and discernible patterns in context. We can really go sort of quite well, very deep in terms of the automation levels that we can achieve. And so we recognize key characteristics, and we then annotate and we map to the target DITA. In the processes where we provide warning reports, and these can deconversion actually sort of provide warnings to you, which may suggest that you need to be doing some additional maybe prep of the content, or just things to watch out for. So things can convert, but maybe afterwards you just need to watch out for one or two things and check on one or two things. It helps you actually be a bit more confident when putting content together to convert. And then the other thing at this point in time is that when the analysis is done, actually the portal then indicates sort of the cost of the conversion, and the cost is actually rated in credits. So we provide this, we charge this thing called a conversion credit, which you purchase. You purchase conversion credits that put onto your portal, and basically you pay as you go. These credits are used as you go along. So you'll see in the demonstration that the credit counts are based upon sort of characters. So we one credit is equivalent to 1,000 characters of text, and we charge for the conversion in that way. So the conversion actually then takes place when you're happy with the messages you see, the charges you see, and the point here is that it's uploaded. You know, it's already been uploaded to the portal. You press the convert button, and this is actually converting in real time. So this is 24/7, 365 days a year. It's actually on demand. So you're scheduling work now around your own production workloads, and you can just push these things through at your own pace. And that's the important thing here. For those documents that don't make it through, and there are always exceptions, and there are always exceptions to the rule. But also a rules editor online, which the subject matter expert can actually use. You don't have to be a developer to use this tool, and so you can tweak the rules online. Really, you can make decisions as to how things should be mapped, and you can easily generate complex rules. If you're prepared to go a little bit deeper, you can get really, really deep into the rules you create. But as I say, you do that as a subject matter expert, not as an IT developer. The other point here to make is that you can reconvert the documents as many times as you like. You can improve the quality iteratively. It doesn't cost you any more. Just keep going until you get to the quality output that you want. Yeah, you can clone rule sets. You can modify rule sets at your leisure, and we'll show you how you can do that. And if for whatever reason things still didn't actually convert, and sometimes that happens, then we're always sitting in the background able to support you and help you out if needs be. So the conversion takes place, and then the point is that you actually just download this back to your desktop, and then you place it into your CMS or wherever onwards. And every time we're producing high quality DITA, we're producing the DITA every time, because the DITA actually is schema generated, and as a result of that, it's actually sort of sometimes infers the sort of mappings that should be taking place as well. So it itself helps you actually map your content to DITA. We can produce DITA topics or specialized topics at various levels. We can produce DITA maps or book maps. We take FN drawings, FrameMaker drawings to SVG. We take equations to MathML. So that's typically what the solution provides. Now, at this point, I want to hand over to Ellen to take the demonstration. I think the important point that we wanted to get across here is that it's placing users in control of the conversion process. And let's try to show you now how that happens. So if I can just make Ellen presenter now, and hopefully we'll pass across quickly enough.
Everybody, so you should be able to see my desktop now, and what you will be looking at is a page that you would see in your Migrate portal once you log in. You'll see as a listing of the documents that are uploaded to the portal already. In my case, it's a listing of three versions of the same document at different stages. To get there, it's very simple. The process is simply upload, browse file system. In this case, a MIF document, just one single document. I can just now hit upload and let Migrate figure out what kind of document it is based on the file extension. But I have different choices here of things that I can upload to this particular portal. A FrameMaker file or a FrameMaker book. So I process them either way, or other input formats that might be available to me. So now I hit upload, and it processes the upload, and that's already uploaded. So I'm going to go back to my documents page, and we see that it's uploaded, but it's still processing. And what's going on now while it's processing is that Migrate is taking input, it's analyzing it, it's going to give us some statistics about it. I'm going to look for any issues that we might need to think about. It's going to calculate how many credits it's going to cost us, how many of our prepaid credits that we have over here that we're going to need to pay. It's also creating, at this point, the intermediate XML file that Les spoke about that preserves things like style information, additions, markers in the FrameMaker and things like that. It preserves all of those so that we can use those in our conversion effort. And as you can see now, it's analyzed. It has this number 19 under credits in red. So that tells us it's going to cost us 19 of our prepaid credits to process this document. So let's see what the analysis has told us. We click on the file name. We'll go to the document details page. Here's the statistics. This is the number of characters. So in this particular case, this is what we use to determine how many of our credits it's going to cost. It's 1,000 characters per credit. So we have 9,000 characters. It will cost us 19 credits. It's also calculated how many formulas it has in. These are FrameMaker equations. How many FrameMaker drawings. And it's got just some statistics, just our information that aren't part of the charging. We can also just check an analysis report to see if there's any messages that we should be aware of about the input. Sometimes we get messages about the draws or so on how they're going to look in SVG when they're converted to SVG. Things like that we should be aware of before we go ahead and say, yes, I'm going to pay 19 credits to convert this. In this, I have no messages at all, though. So I'll go back to my documents page. At this point, what I can do is I can select the document, and I say, okay, there's no reason not to pay those 19 credits, so I click Accept Charges. Now my screen has turned black, and my remaining credits is 19 fewer. Now that I've accepted those credits, I can go ahead and I can annotate and convert this particular document as long as I like. I can refine the rules, I can convert, download, and check it, and come back and refine again as many times as I need until I have the output just exactly the way I want it. That 19 is all that's ever going to cost me. So my next step is to, first of all, assign a rule set. So have a set of rules for FrameMaker inputs on this portal. You'll definitely have a rule set that is put in place for you to begin with. You might have more than one rule set. You can, of course, create additional rule sets of your own. These rule sets would be designed for your particular input. We're going to go today to the DITA 1.2, and we're going to use a DITA map as opposed to a book map. So we have those two options on this portal. Because I have a pretty good rule set in place that I know of, and I know what target I'm going to, I can now go ahead and hit the Convert button. And what Migrate is doing now is it's taking my input in the intermediate XML format that we've created, it's taking rules that are in place, and it's taking the schema for DITA 1.2 and is creating from those output. So it's going to take not very long, a minute or two, but while it's doing that, let's have a quick look at what the input is that we loaded. What we've done here is we've created a document that is just an example of the sorts of things that you tend to find in technical documentation that wants to be converted. We've got some of the typical things in there. We've put some typical facts and some typical issues that we encounter. So, you know, we've got headings and so on. We've got bulleted lists. We've got links. Various different typefaces. We have tables. This nice typographical conventions table. An equation in this case. We have nested lists. We've got drawing. We put some conditional text because that's a very common thing that we see in this type of documentation. Some of the issues that we sometimes see, especially when we've got documentation that's been around for a while, and when it was written, nobody had any thoughts at all of going to DITA. So we see some things that are challenging for conversion. For example, many conversions, and including ours, does a lot of the work by mapping a paragraph style to the element. So in this case, what we have, installing QuickTrace, this is clearly going to be a DITA task, and these are going to be steps. So we can tell this particular paragraph, this starting with 1 here, is going to be a step, and its paragraph style is numbered 1. Second one, its paragraph style is numbered. So we can simply say, if a style is numbered 1 or numbered, let's make that a step. And it's going to do the trick as far as that goes. However, not always is there a clear one-to-one mapping of styles. So we have to be able to do something else. For example, within this step, we have something that is clearly going to need to be a choice. So we have click no or click yes. So these need to be choices. Their paragraph style is numbered cont. Okay. So, but if we say numbered cont, you're going to be choice. What happens when we come down here, where these things clearly need to be sub-steps? So we have to be able to draw a distinction between those two things. So that's one of our challenges. We have a challenge here too, in that the author here didn't actually make this a list and has actually typed in A dot and B dot. We're going to need to actually remove those from the output because the numbering and lettering will be generated on publication. So that's the kind of thing that we do tend to find. Inline styling here that we need to look after. We need to make sure that these become UI controls, and this is a menu cascade. One of the things that we often find is that tables have been used for formatting, and really they don't belong as tables in DITA. So in this case, what we have is a warning, a note that has been formatted in a table just to make it look right. We're going to need to take that out of its table. Another thing that we will tend to see from time to time is that within one topic, we have more than one set of steps. Now, we can actually have two procedures in one task in DITA, so we have to find a way to deal with that. So we'll send it back to the author and say, rewrite this, but there's a little easier way. So we'll look at that. And this is another very common thing here. Again, it's a table, but in the DITA it needs to be steps. So we have to be able to deal with that. And one other table at the bottom that is a definition list. So these are things that we encounter very often in our input, and we'll see what we've done to handle them in the output. So it's converted all right, so I'm going to hit download. Save the file. You can see that although I had uploaded just the one document, I have a large number of files coming out. So I have a separate DITA file for each topic. I have a map. I have a DITA file because we have conditional text. That's automatically generated. I have an XML file that's come from my equation. And I have an SVG file as well that's come from my drawing. So let's pop this open in XML. And here you can see the DITA map, the nice netted DITA map. And we have a look at some of the things that are in here. So one of the things that I'll notice as I'm checking through my output, I'm looking for things that maybe I've missed in my rules. And one of the things I'm going to notice, because I did this on purpose to notice it, is that in my input, quick trace, debugging tools, and ICE Plus were bolded, and they're not bolded in the output. That's a thing that I'm going to want to fix. So I know I'm going to have to go in and fix my rules for that. So let's have a look at installing quick trace and have a look at what's happening here with our steps. We have our steps working properly. Let's put play text view on, and we can see that we've got steps. And we've got choices where we needed to have choices. And we have sub-steps where we needed to have sub-steps. And I've actually managed to get rid of the hard-coded lettering as well. So we've managed to handle that properly. Let's look at our first table. Our table is gone. And again, just for fun, put the tags on view. We can see that we have a note now of type caution. And actually eliminated the word warning that was in there in the first place. And the caution is generated because that's the note type that it is. Now what we've done in the case of the topic with more than one task, we've actually created separate files, and we've just inserted a title and have separate topics. This will do, it will allow us then, as part of our cleanup, we don't have to go and rewrite the whole topic. We can simply come in and give it a proper and put the proper title into the DITA map, and we'll have what we much more easily. And I'm just going to show you the, again, we have a definition list here where we had a table before. That's done with one rule. That's quickly what the output looks like, but I must go back here quickly, and we must have a look at the rules editor to see how we got these rules and how to go ahead and fix the rule that we want to fix. So I have the Edit Rules button here, and what happens now is that Migrate is taking our intermediate format and our rule that we have in place. It's going to pop up an editor with a representation of the content based on the intermediate XML format, and we're going to have the rules on the other side, the rules that are in place. And on this, we can go through and have a look at what's been done. The content panel is just it's an HTML version of the XML that we've created. It has some formatting associated with it, just enough so that you can tell at a glance the parts of the document, what's supposed to be where. So some things you'll notice about it. Some things with strike-throughs. Those are things that are going to be deleted. So markers and so on are going to be deleted. Some text will have gray bars beside it. The bars will tell us that that text hasn't been annotated. In a case like this where all we want is for that to be a paragraph or a tool, then that's fine. But if we saw bars beside headings or list items, we would know that we would want to create an annotation for those. We've put Mona Lisa in instead of that red X where you can't see a graphic. You can see also that we've marked the conditional text in yellow so that you know that that's conditional. So those are just some of the things that you can see at a glance in content pane. Let's just check this piece of text. You can see that it's highlighted green now. And over in our rules panel, we've got some information about it. More specifically, we've got the paragraph style that came over from FrameMaker. We've got the annotation that we've applied to it and which rule has done the annotating. So we can click that, and we'll just take a look at the rule. And this is a pretty straightforward rule. Each rule has two parts. Part tests and matches the correct content that's going to be annotated, and then it's the annotation that is going to apply to it. So in this case, we've just said any paragraph where the paragraph style is title, we're going to annotate it as the title of a map. So that's what this rule does. Very straightforward. Now I really only can have one map title, so just to be sure that I don't have more than one paragraph that is this title, I click Find button. You can see I have a green bar beside every place that this rule has matched. And as I scroll down, I see that it hasn't matched anywhere else. So it's important for me to know. So that's a pretty straightforward rule. We have some more complicated rules, and let's just go very quickly, and we can have a quick look at the kind of rule that we needed to use to get this to be a sub-step and to eliminate the hard-coded lettering. So again, we see its style name is there, and we see the annotations. So annotation is step ordered command level 2, so that means it's going to nest inside higher level step. And here's our rule that does all of this. So the text part of it, it's a paragraph. So we match the style. We look at the content, and we've matched the content. And we've used a regular expression to say, okay, it's going to begin with a lowercase letter followed by a dot. And that's one part. And everything that comes after is another part. Then we've given it two annotations. We've made a command in a step of nesting level 2, which means if there's a step of nesting level 1 open above it, it will become a substep. What we've done is we've done replace string, so we've said the part 1 and part 2 that are there that we've identified, we're only output part 2. So the A dot and B dot are gone. So you see that we can get quite complex and quite sophisticated with our rules. We can do groups of tests. We can say some of. Then within that, we can test on the styles, the properties, so whether it's bold or italic or the line height or things like that. Attributes might include things like conditions. We can test on the content. We can test to see whether it's been annotated already by another rule. We can test to see whether it's contained in something that has been annotated, or whether it contains something that's been annotated. And we actually test based on context as well. So, though a bulk of the work is done by simple mappings of style, some of the more complicated rules do some of the things that will save us the most work in the end. So we can get very sophisticated if need be. Now, typically what we'll find that you'll end up having to do in your rules editor are pretty simple rules, like possibly adding a style. So let's say we have this list bulleted rule here. So perhaps you have another style in there that needs to be a bulleted list as well. You simply add a style to that list. And that's typically what most users find they have to add. Now let's do a new rule, a brand new rule, to match this bold text that we didn't see bold before. And I'm going to match based on the style name. The style name is bold. We probably don't need any of those other properties. We can use them if we need to. In this case, we probably don't. We're applying this to a span. As we can see, it's not the whole paragraph that's bold. It's just this little part. I put in annotation as stopped, and you can see that I have a drop-down list, so that helps me get the annotation correct. The rule a name, so I can find it when I need it. Add it. I save it. Now I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to convert again. While it's converting quickly, if you have some rules, it's always a good idea, I find, to make a backup of your rules. So as Les was mentioning, we can clone rule sets. So if you have two families of documents that are similar but not exactly the same, you might want two slightly different rule sets. You go ahead and clone your rules. I'm going to give this one a backup. So now I have another rule set that's currently identical to this one, but I can now go ahead and apply that rule set, use it as much as I want, and modify it so that I have different rule sets now to work with. I can just use it the same as I do these. Converted correctly. Make sure I open up the right. So preface was the one I needed. So you can see that the bolding has taken effect. So you can to change your conversion is really very, very quick. It happens right in front of your eyes, and so it's a big favor to do those little things yourself, not to have to worry about sending them off to a supplier and having them take their time and do it and send it back to you for approval and so on. You can make these changes extremely quickly, right in front of your eyes, and still 19 credits are the same. I need now to pass this back over to Les. Les, I took a lot of time. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Great. Thanks very much, Helen. I'm just sharing my desktop now to hopefully go through quite quickly a few more slides, and before leaving some time for questions at the end. So hopefully everyone can see the demonstration slide up on the screens now. Just to share some feedback with you, we talk about a couple of customers, one large and one small. So talking about one large customer at the moment, we actually did a lot of work with Migrate and the central ID tools team at IBM. I put the Migrate system through its paces. It came out very well and was recommended for use elsewhere within IBM. And we undertook a project with Sterling Commerce. They were actually sort of purchased and acquired by IBM a couple of years ago and needed to migrate content. It was very interesting because they were using what one might call, I guess, a traditional outsourcing vendor. They're also converting content in-house themselves with their own tools. And sort of we came along latterly, and they used the Stilo Migrate service. And in light of that, they actually were collecting metrics which they shared with us. They co-presented with us at CMS did in North America, the conference earlier this year, and at the European conference last year as well. And these were the results that came up. So it's interesting metrics. So compare, for example, the outsourcing versus the Stilo approach. There was still just as much time put in pre-prep for documents, but actually the documents went through very, very quickly with Stilo, and they took a lot longer in the conventional outsourcing method, where there's a lot of toing and froing, or a lot of churn really with outsourcing supplies and then clean up afterwards. But with Stilo, you can actually convert things very quickly and clean things up very quickly. So you can see this was actually the average hours per book by vendor method, and you can see that how quickly books were actually put through. And this was one of the issues, I guess, that came up in the poll earlier, that people didn't really know how to estimate the amount of time it would take to do none of this, and we can get to some sort of interesting metrics really pretty quickly. Another way that you can, IBM sort of looked at the alternatives here as well. Was this is actually sort of another one of their slides, not ours, comparing the three approaches. I haven't really got time to go through each one in depth, but this will be available in the on the website later to you all. But it's actually just showing the approaches of outsourcing again versus the self-serve Stilo approach and manual methods. I think that on the in the top half of that, there's a lot of sort of commonality in terms of sort of outsourcing approaches and the Stilo approach, where you can actually sort of scale the service and meet high volume demands, but at the same time you can actually sort of have individual control over the conversion process, which is more akin really to manual DIY in-house solutions. Here that people thought, using this cloud approach actually makes life a lot easier for the SME. You can decide what documents to convert on demand with immediate results. You don't have to make big decisions about actually sort of batching an awful lot of documents together and working to other people's schedules. You can actually sort of schedule the conversion tasks around your own personal production workloads, and that's important for busy SMEs because you will be involved in QAing results and in actually sort of improving the output. You can avoid the churn of going back and forth with conversion partners by actually having an online solution, and you can reduce the manual pre- and post-conversion cleanup because because you can iteratively improve the quality of the content that you're actually generating. Certainly at IBM, one spin-off there was, and unexpected one, was that the authors actually improved their knowledge of DITA by use of the Migrate rules editor and having to make those decisions actually sort of got them more into the zone, if you like, as they were beginning to adopt DITA solutions. So overridingly, this was placing users in control of the conversion process. Now, I was trying to advance this slide. On the side of the coin is a smaller organization, Webtrends. Really, a portal solution isn't right for everyone. I noticed that in the survey earlier that a lot of attendees are looking to convert between 0 and 1,000 pages. And this probably puts you into the zone of Webtrends, really, where they were. There was a single document of 800 pages they wanted to convert. It didn't make sense at that point to set up a portal. There tends to be a break-even point at about a couple of thousand pages. But they provided us with a sample document. We very, very quickly turned it around, gave them some sample output, corrected it very quickly, and gave them some very clean, high-quality output very quickly. And it's nice to see references like this that we received from Webtrends. For those who would want to implement the portal, we can get you up and running really quite quickly. You provide us with sample documents for analysis. We'll review the output with you. We run things through Migrate, and then we confirm any tailoring requirements you might have or any specializations you might have. And then we configure a dedicated portal for you. There is a training for the rules editor, but that's typically one WebEx session, an hour, maybe two, maybe a follow-up session, but typically 1 hour for SMEs to become accustomed to that, and then you're good to go. So we can go up and running with a portal very quickly. As I mentioned earlier, we provide ongoing support as well. So if you like, drive the solution yourself, or we can actually operate it on your behalf if you'd rather do that in a small volume environment. Before we wrap up, I also want to take the opportunity to provide an offer to attendees as well. If you're just getting involved with DITA, if you want to just evaluate what this whole thing means, and you've got a sample document that you want to provide us with, up to say 20 pages, this can be Frame, it can be Word if you like. Then provide us with a sample document. We'll actually apply some default rules to it. We'll run it through Migrate, and we'll provide some DITA output. We'll review the output with you. We can on a one-to-one WebEx with observations on the content. It can retain the output and maybe use that for evaluating other authoring tools, or maybe pushing it through maybe a CMS that you want to look at. But it will maybe give you some food for thought and help you better understand your original content, which was again one of the issues which was raised in the survey earlier. So it's limited. We can't keep it open all the time. But if you'd like actually to tie into this offer, please just provide us with go to our website, migrate@stilo.com. You'll see some more details there. It's time limited, so you need to provide us with the samples during December, and we can really then hopefully get back to you during January and help you better understand your source content. So really all we have time for, we're just about on the hour. And now we'll leave it open to any questions you want to raise. And I think, Avi, that need to be raised via the chat mechanism. So if there are questions coming in, we'd like to be able to take them now. So, Patrick, would you like to comment on some of the questions that have been raised?
The question is there some type of demo conversion available? And I guess that came a bit before that last slide. So we are offering to do for free, a small conversion for you, and to share that output with you, and maybe even show how what the rule set looked like led to it. So yeah, go ahead and send us some of your input. Okay. One question here asks, what exactly is an annotation? Is that part of your intermediate XML format? So what we're talking about here is guided conversion, where the subject matter expert guides the conversion. The annotation is the content that is placed by the subject matter expert using the rules editor, places this annotation a piece of text in input and says, I think this is a note, for example, or I think that this is a step in a task. So the annotation annotates your document to identify the meaning of your text, and then the Migrate conversion can create the markup in DITA for it. And in a way, it is part of the XML format, the intermediate XML format that we talked about. Does it work with all browsers? Yeah. So Migrate works with much all the conventional popular browsers, certainly with Fox and Internet Explorer and Google Chrome.
And Safari.
We do have some customers using Safari. So we have a question about graphic handling. In particular, how they handled when the graphic is included reference. So it doesn't really need the graphic because it won't convert the graphic itself. What it will do is put a reference to the graphic in your DITA. So if you're uploading a FrameMaker file or a Word file and there's a linked graphic there, then that's fine. The information about the name of the graphic is available, and Migrate can link to that as well. You can override it. That if you want to make adjustments to the path or bring some convention for image naming, then you can put in a rule. For example, if your images are in an images subfolder, you could do that, and it will be included in the path to the image. Migrate doesn't even need to see the images, so you don't have to upload them with the document to the portal. If you can control the extension also. So, for example, in some cases, people had CGMs or images, and they wanted to write JPEG versions of them. So you can make those sorts of changes also, so that the DITA ends up printing a JPEG version of the image. Yeah, relative links. So we can process FrameMaker. So we have a question about relative links. Are they left intact? We convert to DITA. We are creating topics because DITA is topic-based. So in order to link to other topic, you use a topic file name. In order to link to a piece of text in a topic, you need to know which topic it's in. So Migrate processes a book at a time, and no matter how many chapters there are in the book, it can resolve the links across that book. And when it creates the DITA output, which is typically first, so you can control that, it will have the correct DITA style address there or link there, so that it identifies the exact location of the target within whatever topic it's contained by. That's good. So that's it for questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Patrick, and thanks, Helen, for the demonstration, and thanks to all attendees for coming to today's session, and thanks to our hosts, XMetal and Avi. So, Avi, back over to you now.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of the webinar. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Les and Helen, and Patrick, for answering the questions. We're really glad that we could have you share your information and experiences. Thank you again to all those who participated. We're glad you could join us, and we hope that it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to email to Metal or to Stilo about any other questions you have. And please note that we will be sending out the webinar, again, the recording in the email. That's it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening.